This Worlds is probably the most exciting Worlds ever in the history of League of Legends. The level of play is so high and the amount of strong teams from different regions with different playstyles is staggering. If you compare the level of play to Season 1 or even Season 3, you will see a massive difference. What makes these players so amazing and why have they improved so much in the last decade? Well, I'm here to tell you. My name is Dr. Amin Issa, and 5 years ago I was the first person to apply eye tracking technology to help us understand what makes League players so great. Today, I'm the War Chief of Science at Mobalytics, and I'm teaming up with Alienware and Toby once again to return to such a powerful tool and break down performance. With all the amazing scientific technology in the world, why focus on eye tracking? First, I want you to think of gaze tracking as the gateway to a player's brain. What they're paying attention to tells you a lot about what they are thinking. When we can more completely understand what players are thinking, we can reach new heights in training and performance. By seeing what Faker sees, we can understand why he makes certain decisions and understand his thought processes more clearly. Historically, performance eye tracking has been hard to do accurately since it's hard to gather data from people moving around. The technology has definitely come a long way since the first eye tracking machines, but on top of that, it's even easier when considering the stationary nature of esports. The player sits in the same place and looks at the same monitor the entire game. This is doubly effective since we can more easily combine multiple streams of data by syncing eye tracking and game data. The most amazing thing about gaming is that it's the key to unlocking a lot of how we understand human behavior and learning. For the same reason AI companies seek to understand problem solving through games, think OpenAI and Dota 2, understanding human performance through games is ideal as well. Games have clear, defined goals with near instantaneous outcomes and feedback. Eye tracking is a multifaceted subject to analyze, and each part of it contributes to overall performance. Probably the most familiar to you is the concept of tunnel vision. Let's take a look at this clip from the semi-final game between FPX and IG. TheShy, considered by some to be the best player in the world, is in an excellent position to carry the game. He has hit level 16 on Kayle and is the most fed person in the game, which basically means he's the most powerful person on the map. He sees the enemy bot laner in what seems like an out of position place and starts to chase. He ignores everything else and tunnels on LWX and ends up dying to the enemy team as a result. This deadly mistake cost his team the game and the series, effectively knocking the defending champions out of the tournament. Let's take a step back. What is tunnel vision? Tunnel vision is not just something that exists in League of Legends, but to put it simply, it happens when we over-index our attention on one thing and ignore our surroundings. We can see this phenomenon in a few places IRL. One of the most common scenarios is when you are driving. Sometimes people are so focused on the car in front of them, they may not notice the car in the lane next to them or even behind them. You can bet that tunnel vision is the cause of a lot of car accidents. Or let's look at a sport like basketball. There are many plays that take advantage of players' inability to pay attention to everything happening on the court at once. But none are more well known than the classic pick and roll. The player is so focused on the opponent they are guarding that they don't see the other player come up from next to them, and then bam! Their path is obstructed and the opponent is free to score. Finally, if you can't relate to any of those real-world examples because you don't play sports or drive, just remember the last time you were in the same room as your crush. It was probably pretty hard to notice anything else that was going on because your mind and senses were focused on one place. Identifying your tunnel vision and controlling it is the first step to getting your crush and to winning at League. Don't worry, everyone who plays League experiences tunnel vision, from someone as good as TheShy to someone as bad as your average Iron 4 player. Usually this involves fixating on a specific target and feeling this immense and burning desire to kill that target. The player becomes so consumed with bloodlust they cannot help but to overcommit and end up doomed to the enemy's friends laughing at how overextended they are. Other times it just involves zoning out. You have a lapse in attention and stare at the screen, going through the motions but thinking of something else entirely. Maybe that's your crush from part 1, or maybe just what are you going to build this game? Sound familiar? Good. Now that we've identified the problem, how do we solve it? The traditional way is for a player to watch their replay or game footage and try and break down what they were thinking during a team fight or a particular play. But most of the time we are so in the moment that we cannot remember what happened and why we did that. This is where eye tracking comes in. When reviewing our own replays with eye tracking, we can see exactly where we're looking every millisecond. We can realize what we did wrong and what maybe we could have done differently and remember that for the future. Using this technique, we can learn more from the Fakers and the Shys of the world. There's so much going on in League that to become a great player, you can't afford to watch one place for so long. You have to watch your lane opponent, you have to check the minimap, you have to check cooldowns, you have to check HP and mana, you have to see what your allies are doing, you have to check the tab screen to see power spikes, you have to check your ally cooldowns to see if they're ready to engage, you have to see if they're in position to engage, and you have to make decisions every second based on that information you are receiving. If that sounds like a lot, it is. League is a complicated game of decision making, and that's the primary difference between the pros and the Joes. Let's use a real example to break that concept down some more. Here, you will see a clip of an average Draven. They're just walking back to mid lane. I want you to pay special attention to the red box, which is where they are looking at that particular moment in time. Pretty soon after arriving to lane, Draven notices a fight going on and starts to watch. Seeing an opportunity for a kill, this Draven tunnels their vision on Xin Zhao and keeps watching, even after throwing out their ult. He completely ignores his surroundings and is taken by surprise when Fizz jumps at him. As an observer, it was pretty easy to see that coming, but the player never did. They kept their gaze on the target for almost 5 seconds, an eternity in league time. Right now, you might be saying, okay, I get it. Pros are so quick at processing all this stuff and don't tunnel as much. But how can I improve my tunnel vision? I don't want to watch every single replay of mine with eye tracking. I don't even want to watch my own replays without eye tracking. That's where we come in. If you play League with our app and with a Tobii eye tracker, we will automatically sync up what is happening in the game with what you're looking at and figure out if you are a tunneler. With that information, we will be able to score you and show you if you're progressing towards your goal of becoming a better you. Once you've identified your tunnel vision problem and a few places where it commonly happens to you, team fights, skirmishes, smite wars, what can you do to improve? Well, you can start by learning to diversify your focus. Start building habits that force you to scan other information channels. For example, force yourself to check the minimap every CS. Check your tab screen every creep wave and every time you're walking to a destination. This way you can keep tabs on your opponents and take note of when they hit their power spikes. Remember that at first this might be rough because you might be slow and die to something you wouldn't have normally died to, but you will get better. You can never get better if you don't start. Something else you can do is learn to make a plan. What are you going to look for and when? This will allow you to make the most out of every piece of extra information you are getting by diversifying your focus. For example, if you know that your lane opponent has 2 options with their build, AP and AD, then you can formulate a 3-step plan to react appropriately. Step 1, recognize what you will do in each scenario so you don't have to think. When in game, thinking means losing. Step 2, constantly monitor the tab screen for the earliest item they get that can tip you off to their build. Step 3, react accordingly. Another example, if you're playing against a Twisted Fate or a Galio, monitoring the minimap to know when they go missing is key to your safety. Recognize and practice that habit. During a team fight, always track the key players and abilities relevant to your champ. Do not, I repeat, do not tunnel in on the one champ that you want to kill. To help you do this, practice going through what you are looking for before the fight starts. Is it Orianna's ball you don't die a horrible death to, or is it Ezreal's E so you know he's vulnerable? Figure this out before the fight starts. Once the fight has started, it's already too late. Finally, practice, and more practice. You need to build the necessary repeated actions to recognize information and react appropriately. If you don't pick the right habits to practice and the right information gathering techniques, your practice will be in vain, so be smart and efficient with your time. People always focus on what's happening in the game, but very few people focus on what's happening outside the game. Learn to train your mind to become more familiar with what you're looking for while away from the game so you can see it quicker inside the game. Mentally tick off all the things you want to monitor before a game starts, or even when you're on your commute. Make a checklist of the information you need every league game in several types of situations. Situation 1, enemy jungler is going to take dragon. Can I contest? What do I need to check first? Situation 2, I want to gank an opponent. What should I check before I know it's worth my time? Situation 3, enemies all missing. What do I check to know if I need to head towards Baron? Most people just blindly start heading to Baron if it's past 20 minutes. Don't be that person. You get the idea. We can only give you examples, but to achieve the next level of excellence, you have to do some digging and figure out what you need to do and how you need to mentally acquire that knowledge and the habits that come with it. I hope you learned a lot from this, and it's just the first topic in a series of videos that cover 5 key aspects of information processing and decision making in League. Each of those topics is related to a skill we have developed and analyzed using our toolset. Our goal is to take what we have learned from the pros and help you level up your game.